This is one of the sample questions that you might face during your Oxford online placement test, which is now a standard placement test by the Doha College, previously known as North Atlantic, Qatar. So let's go through this. Read the dialogue, then select the correct answer from the options below. Okay. What does the reporter mean? We have a dialogue between an editor and a reporter. So the editor says, what part of your piece also touched on location tracking in cell phones? The reporter answers, well, I think that's a whole article unto itself. A bit confusing, isn't it? I think that's a whole article unto itself. So what does the reporter mean by this statement? The subject of location tracking is too big. Location tracking is irrelevant to the article. The whole article should be about location tracking. What do you think the correct answer is, guys? Okay, let us analyze this statement. Well, okay, that's the opener. This is how she opened or he opened up his speech or his sentence or his statement. And then he said or she said, I think that's a whole article unto itself. Now we have this expression, unto itself. When we say about something that it is something unto itself, this means that it is unique, special, or like no other. So from this, we understand that whatever she's talking about is unique, is special, and it's like nothing else, basically. So let's see what exactly was she referring to by this relevant pronoun. That's a whole article unto itself. What does this pronoun refer to? What is the antecedent of this pronoun? Okay, the gentleman or the other speaker was asking her about a piece. What part of your piece also touched on location tracking in cell phones? Okay, so the question is about a piece. Of course, Oxford will not make things very easy for us. So when they talk about a piece, okay, now we actually get confused a little bit. What kind of piece are you talking about? Now let's see the options here. The subject of location tracking is too big. Okay, so here, location tracking is a subject. Yeah, that's correct. Location tracking is irrelevant to the article. Aha, there is something new here. An article. Okay, and here we have an editor and a reporter. So most likely, this article is a maqal. صحفي. Okay, so we're talking about an article in a newspaper by a reporter or by an article in a newspaper done by a reporter, or an article in a magazine done by that reporter. And the editor is the person who's actually supervising the reporter. So from here, we understand that the word piece is actually put in the question in this manner to make us a little bit confused. And by this, they meant the article. So what you should do in the exam or in the test is you should simply, when you read this part of the question, Now that you understand, you should read it in a correct way. So you should say, what part of your article also touched on location tracking in cell phones? Okay, now we understand it very well. So he's asking her about her article, and this article, okay, talked about things common in cell phones, and one of these things is location tracking. And he's specifically asking her, what exactly in your article, or which part of your article talked about? So touched on here is a phrasal verb, which actually means talked about. So we can reread this sentence or the first statement in this way. What part of your article also talked about location tracking in cell phones? Wow, that makes it very easy, doesn't it? Yes, it makes it quite easy. So now the reporter answers, well, I think that's a whole article unto itself. So what part of your article talked about location tracking in cell phones? Well, I think that's a whole different article by itself. It's unique, it's a subject that is really unique, so it deserves its own article. Okay, so she's actually saying that location tracking is an article unto itself. That's an article by itself. I have enough things to list in order to compile an article especially dedicated to location tracking in cell phones. So what do you guys think the correct answer here should be? Do you think that location tracking is irrelevant to the article? Not necessarily. It's part of cell phones, so it cannot be irrelevant. Yes, it's too big, but it doesn't mean that it is irrelevant. So quickly, I can actually eliminate this option. Now, most of the students should be perplexed or should be thinking of either A or C. If you choose B, then you choose the least one, honestly, to be suspected to be true. So now, option C says the whole article should be about location tracking. She says it's an article unto itself. But does this mean that the whole article should be about location tracking? Do you think so? So let's see option A before deciding. Option A says the subject of location tracking is too big. Well, isn't this more or less the same meaning? Like it's something that it deserves attention, by itself? You should dedicate a full article to it? Yes, dedicating a full article to it means it's actually too big. It's something that is really important. It doesn't mean that the article should be about location tracking. This article is about cell phones already. We're not discussing whether this article is correct or not. He's only asking her whether she has touched on location tracking. He's saying what part of your piece, what part of your article has touched or also touched on location tracking? And she answers back that this deserves a whole article in itself. So she doesn't mean that she made a mistake by writing an article about cell phones and the options in cell phones. She actually means that this thing is something that is really unique, something that is very special. It is something that is treacherous. It's full of, humps or full of pumps. It's something that is really big and it deserves a whole article upon itself. So by saying that it deserves a whole article unto itself, she's actually meaning that this subject is really big. So therefore, answer A is the correct one. Answer C is something that is a bit similar, but if you really understand that this implies that the article that she wrote is wrong or something wrong, it should be about location tracking. The whole article should be about location tracking. This is not the meaning. We're not talking about whether this article that she wrote already is something wrong or something that she should switch or something that she should change. We're just talking about understanding the meaning of unto itself, the meaning of the phrasal verb here. Did you touch on something? Okay, and the whole use of English, the meaning of the whole situation. Now, I hope, ladies and gentlemen, I hope, my dear students, that you understood the answer here, and I look forward to seeing you on another trick or another question very soon. Thank you so much.